Hi, I'm Dion Barnard from Tiana, and I love Geeks Like Me.
Greetings, fellow geeks, and welcome to another episode of Geeks Like Me with me, your host, Drake and Red Fox. Today we are here with Dion Barnard from the Tales of Tiana Larp to talk a little bit about LARPing. Dion, welcome to Geeks Like Me.
Thank you. Draken, is it?
Yes.
Nice to be here.
So, the word LARP stands for Live Action Roleplay. But what is it actually?
It's pretty much in the name. So, in the old days, we used to sit around the table and play Dungeons and Dragons. I remember the first box set I ever got of Dungeons and Dragons with a little figurine, and you used to imagine what the little figurine was doing on the table, kind of thing. Well, now instead of imagining it, you go and do it. So live action role play is living out that fantasy with your actual body, right? So we pick up weapons, we sing in taverns, we make fires, we battle each other, we do all sorts of things, and it makes it quite real. It's quite immersive.
So, basically, it's if you like the game Diablo, it's basically taking a Diablo character and putting it in real life, in short.
In short, except it's probably more like World of Warcraft than Diablo.
World of Warcraft fan. Okay, so a little bit about the races. In Tiana, like, you get different races, like in most of the games. Tell us a little bit more about the races that you get.
In one way, it's a lot like Dungeons and Dragons or a Tolkienian type universe. You have elves and dwarves and humans. But we also have some very interesting races, like bird people called Beata and cat people called Sa. And we even have like lizard people and bugs, and there's all sorts of things. But of course, we face the evil undead skeletal warriors and orcs. So, yeah, a lot of familiar races and a few special things that Tiana has on its own.
And classes-wise, if you had to pick like a class set, what type of classes?
So it's a simplified class set. We have 4 classes. We have the standard warrior. Everybody loves to be a warrior. You know, it's just pick up a sword and smack someone. We have the classic mage or scholar. That's all about magic. Then we have a sort of combination of a warrior and a scholar. We call that a Templar. That's if you feel like doing a little magic on the battlefield and also hitting someone with a sword. And then we have that 4th, slightly off-the-wall class called the Rogue. And that's all about stabbing people in the back and stealing stuff and sort of hiding in the shadows.
Cool. We have a couple of the weapons here. Now, the first time I heard about LARPing, I thought it was like pool noodles and, just the basic type of stuff. But the weapons that we have here, they look very authentic. They look very real. This is the weapons that you guys fight with.
Absolutely. So, look, a lot of people in the game do fight with pool noodle type weapons, which is just a simple pole with a pool noodle over it with a bunch of duct tape. But we like to immerse ourselves, so we want to kind of see the weapon we're fighting with. So if you have a look at this, this is Alarian's bow, and this is handcrafted with foam. We have several folks that are in the game that are really masterful at creating this type of weapon. So a lot of the weapons you see here, we've made ourselves.
And obviously it has to be created, because I see it's made from a special foam, because you don't want to damage your opponent.
Yeah, you don't want to damage your opponent. You also don't want to keep remaking your weapon. So you want your foam to be durable, but soft. The whole idea of LARPing is that you're immersing yourself in a fantasy experience without the pain and the doctor's bills. Yeah. Okay, so yes, we all our weapons have to be LARP certified. So we've got folks within the game that make sure that everybody's weapons are non-harmful. I mean, the worst that can happen is you get a bit of a sting if someone swings too hard. But they have to be safe.
So with the weapons, you can physically hit somebody. I mean, it takes an effect and they can feel it. But how would you cast spells in the game, like a fireball or I don't quite know all the spells, but how would you cast a spell?
Okay, so spells, in fact, any missile-based attack or ranged attack is done with a packet. It's called a packet, and it's a little square of fabric that has a bunch of fine bird seed in it, and then it's tied together with an elastic band. So it ends up looking like a little shuttlecock. And we literally pick it up in our hand, say some sort of verbal like, I call forth a dragon's breath 40, and then I throw it after I've said my verbal, and if that packet hits someone, that fireball has just exploded in their face.
And then they take damage.
And they'll
things
take
like
the
that.
and the damage is in the verbal. So when I say I call forth the dragon's breath 40, the other person is listening for the 40, and they know when it hits them, they've just taken 40 damage.
Okay, so the game itself sounds very combat-y, and there's a lot of people that, they're not quite into the whole combat thing.
Sure.
So can someone immerse themselves, say they want to play more political game, or they want to be a bard, or I don't know, a healer of some sort,
Sure.
and they don't physically want to get hit or actually hit someone because they don't have the skill set to do so. Is that something that they can do in roleplay?
Absolutely. In fact, that for me, that is the best part of the whole thing. It's an immersive experience, and it doesn't have to be combat. In fact, one of the things we do in Tiana is we alternate our events. One combat event, one non-combat event, what we call a celebration event, so that different kinds of role players have a whole event to enjoy in a different way. So in terms of non-combat activities, there's the politics of the world. So you can, wangle your way into the king's court, or you can steal somebody's thing and, hold them for ransom. Or and if you're like me and you enjoy singing and you enjoy the tavern, we formed a bards guild, and so we spend whole hours at a time just entertaining people with music. So there's just so many ways to immerse yourself. I mean, one of the ways we immerse ourselves is we cook for ourselves. So we set up a big bonfire, we put a pig on a spit, and we turn it over the fire, and we try and have a really immersive dining experience as well.
That sounds awesome. So say someone wants to actually come into, it's something that they want to do, but they're not really fighters, like they've never been trained. Because I know that some of the people who LARP are actually trained. They're trained combatants, either they have
Yes.
martial arts or some form of weapons training. But what about people who haven't? Do they learn? Can you guys teach them how to fight?
Absolutely. So, some of the folks you're speaking of, some of our martial artists and more combat-oriented humans out of game, so to speak, are more than happy to teach people the basics of LARP combat. But even then, it really isn't a complicated thing. We've got some very strict rules about combat. You can't just wail on someone. You can't hurt anyone. So the idea is you're really just trying to touch someone's arm or leg or torso with a weapon. And any kind of touch from the other person's shield or weapon is a block. So, it doesn't even have to be genuine combat. As long as you feel like you're having fun, that's really all that matters. Those that do know how to combat properly obviously make it look good. So, have very epic looking, spinning, swinging, crazy kind of combat. It always looks great, but not everybody's up to that, and that's fine. This game is for everybody, and literally you could play for 5 years in live action role play and never use a weapon, and it wouldn't matter. You could have just as much fun as a combatant.
Now, something about the costumes, and we'll get to yours, because you have a very elaborate costume, okay, which obviously takes some money or someone to craft for you,
Sure.
having to craft it yourself. When you start out LARPing, do you necessarily have to, spend all that money? Because that's always a problem, when you start a geek hobby. It's like, I don't have this much money for a sword or that much money for a full costume. Can you start with something very basic that just kind of represents?
Absolutely. In fact, I suggest that. The last thing you want to do is spend, 20 grand on a costume, and then you realize you don't like the character you're playing on your first event, and you've just wasted all your money. So by far the better strategy here is to start playing the game. Just put on something very simple, get a friend to sew you up a garment of some sort, put on some, mock leather gauntlets or something. Just keep it simple. Work out if you actually enjoy your character, and if you do, then start to evolve your costume. So the costume I'm wearing now for my character Ilarion is very different to when I started 5 years ago. When I started 5 years ago, it was very basic. We just found some sheeting and like a blanket and turned it into a cape, and it was just like really low key, you know. Now we have spent hundreds of hours doing leather working. I've gone and learned how to do it. We've spent money on it. We have friends who commission amazing items for us, and event after event, we just kind of like World of Warcraft. Your character just looks cooler and cooler with each iteration. It's very cool.
So you can actually, there is in the LARP group, there is people who actually can commission like weapons and armor and stuff for you.
So we have experts in foam crafting to create weapons and armor for chunky warrior types. We have experts in we have seamstresses who are great with cloth and creating gowns and dresses and tunics and pants and that sort of thing. We have experts in leatherworking who do beautiful belts and armor, and So we have various people that do various different types of crafty things, and so once you're in the community, it's really easy to find someone who can make you what you're looking for at a cost, or you learn from those people the skill yourself and make it yourself. It's a great hobby because the hobby is more than just the game. The hobby is about the workshops you have outside, creating weapons, creating costumes. It's all part of it.
And forming a community.
Absolutely.
Course, yes. So one thing that I found very interesting, looking at South African LARPing and overseas LARPing, when you watch LARP movies, people have this connotation to, they look at a LARP movie and they go like, really, this is it? Because the movies are, no, it's not a true reflection of what LARPing is.
They're terrible.
Yeah, so just for the people out there, can you explain to them the difference between what they see in a movie and the actual thing?
Okay, if you've seen a few LARP movies, like Knights of Badassdom, for instance, there's certainly elements of it that are a lot like what we do. But it's as immersive as you want it to be, okay? In a lot of the movies, you'll find there's a lot of like out-of-game chatter. They're sort of going in and out of character the whole time, sort of every few seconds. We try and stay away from that. If you're in character, you try and stay in character and make it immersive for everybody else. And it's just a whole lot of fun. I mean, in a lot of the movies, it really seems like everyone who plays LARPing is really fringe, autistic, and they are really normal people, accountants and lawyers and IT people and managers and people who run there. They are regular folks who play LARPing. They're not, all living in a dungeon in their mother's house. This is not the wider community. So people shouldn't be scared off by the sort of vision of LARPing they see on the movies. Although there's some fun stuff there. Some of those movies do make you smile.
And if someone wants to get into LARPing, do you have, they can obviously go to the website, which you will post at the bottom of this video, www.tiana.co.za. But if they want to immerse themselves and just see what it's like, is there an opportunity that they can come to that's not like a big event?
Absolutely. Okay, so we have various events throughout the year. We have 3 or 4 big events, what we call events or camps. So that's where we go away for a weekend and we do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we're in character the whole time. Those are great experiences. And people shouldn't be scared to just join one of those. They're really not scary things to do, But throughout the year, in between those major events, we have one-day sort of adventure days where people can come and even without a character, just to see what it feels like to combat and that sort of thing. They're usually little mini combat events, and we're always looking for monsters. And by monsters, we mean we're looking for people who can play the storyline, be the orc or the undead king or the traveling gypsy or whatever it is. And any new player can come in, or anyone interested can come in. We give them a little script, and it says, this is who you are, this is what you're going to do, and when the players come and react this way, you're going to do this. And they just simply follow the guideline of that script and watch what everyone else is doing. We've had lots of people come through, enjoy a day like that, and then get hooked and start joining us on bigger events.
And how would they get hold of you guys to be able to find out a little bit more about that?
The website's the best place. Our whole community is bound together by the website, tiana.co.za, and we have some Facebook groups as well. So get onto the website, link to a Facebook group, get hold of us. We have some newbie shepherds that'll help new players orient themselves to this whole world. And it is a great community. I mean, we don't just play Tiana together. We party together. We sing together. We do other things together outside of the game, and that community is a family. It's a strong family. So we're always welcoming new people into that family.
I have a favor to ask, just for our viewers. I would like to see a transformation from you being as you are now into your character, if that's possible for us.
I don't mind getting naked in front of anyone. I'm happy to turn into a Larian for you, absolutely.
So please take us through a little bit of your costume, piece by piece.
Okay, so this character, Alarian, is a wood elf, okay, or wild elf. I've always been fascinated with elves since Tolkien, since Legolas, as a small child, and so I sort of built this character around Legolas. That's what it was built around, and I try and be as detailed as possible. The more things for someone to look at on the costume, the more interesting it is, and the more striking you are as a character, the more immersive it is. So if I go from the inside out, I start with a pair of basic black pants, usually a pair of black jeans. I went out online and found a pair of boots. Knee-high boots are really hard for men to find. They don't just sell them in shops, so you kind of got to scour the internet for them. And what I've done is I literally went out and bought myself a springbok skin, and I cut that skin and I've glued it onto my boots, and I've glued it onto my chest armor to try and create that wild effect, right? So once I've got my boots and my black trousers on, I try and wear like a medieval shirt, something plain with a sort of stringy connection. On top of that, I put a tunic or a tabard, which is sort of a nice medieval little taste. And then on top of that tabard, I put some armor. I have a utility belt that has two giant springbok packet holders for all those ranged missile weapons, because this character is an archer. So I throw yellow seed packets, which represent arrows. And so I keep those arrows in my springbok pouches, and on that utility belt I also have, my mug and my pipe and my potions and my loot bag and all the other things I need. And then above that I have my chest armor. That just allows me to be able to declare some additional armor for my character, gives me more body points or hit points effectively. And then I have elf ears. That's very important. You have to represent yourself as an elf with ears, otherwise you're not an elf. I also wear a red mage collar. That red mage collar tells the world that I'm a formal mage and can cast formal magic in the game. And then on top of all that, I have Alarian's very well-known green cloak. And it's an interesting thing, because most people in the game would say, don't wear a cloak, because as you run and it flaps behind you, packets hit the cloak instead of hitting your body. But if a packet hits your cloak, it's still a hit. So it makes my body, 3 times the target. But I think looking cool is more important than dying. So I'm happy to die if I look cool, right? So that's why I wear a giant green cloak. Plus, some of our events happen in the middle of winter, and that cloak is 10 meters of thick, heavy fabric. So what it allows me to do is wrap it around me twice, like a blanket, while we're sitting around the fire, which is really cool. So yeah, that's pretty much my costume.
That is really, really an amazing outfit. Dion, thank you so much for chatting with us about Tiana. I'll definitely come around and cover one of the events and show people what it's actually really about. It sounds really amazing. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity. Great to speak to you.
Thank you so much for joining us once again, guys. That was our short video on an introduction on what LARPing is. If you guys are interested in joining, please go to the website www.tiana.co.za. Check it out. Go join one of their adventure days. I'm definitely going to go and see a little bit more about what LARPing is. It is in South Africa, believe it or not. If you guys like this video, please click the like button, share it, leave a comment in the section below, and subscribe to our channel. From my side, that's all for today. Till next time, game on and geek on.